Can you imagine living in a place where even urine had market value? Where the strong smell of the streets came not only from the sweat of the soldiers, but also from pots overflowing with fermented urine. And most impressively, this precious liquid was the key to clean clothes in a city that knew no laundry detergent. Before you turn up your nose, get ready to find out how the Romans turned something so despicable into liquid gold for their laundries. Come with me, because the story you're going to hear now will turn your head. It may sound strange to us today, but in ancient Rome, urine was much more than just bodily waste. It was an essential resource for cleaning clothes and even an element of economic value. Imagine the scene. Busy streets, merchants shouting their wares, soldiers marching, and in the midst of it all, large clay pots filled with fermented urine, waiting for the right moment to fulfill their role in Roman hygiene. And it's this curious practice, and even a little repulsive by today's standards, that we're going to dive into in this video. Why did the Romans use urine to wash clothes? The explanation lies in the science behind this ancient custom. When the urine was stored for some time, it turned into a solution rich in ammonia, a substance that in turn proved to be highly effective in removing dirt and grease from the fibers of the tissues. Ammonia is a strong base, capable of dissolving oils and dirt that are difficult to remove, working as a true natural detergent. In addition, other salts present in the urine also help to enhance the cleaning, giving more effectiveness to the process. But it wasn't just any urine. The Romans knew that freshly collected urine wasn't as effective as urine that was kept for a few days. The secret was to let it cure so that the ammonia formed in greater concentration, making it stronger for cleaning. It was as if it were a secret ingredient that transformed urine from a simple liquid into a powerful cleaning tool. Want to know more about how all this happened? Then keep following this series. In Rome, washing clothes was a serious activity, not just a household chore. Unlike what we are used to today, where each family usually has its own washing machine, in ancient Rome, washing clothes was a collective process, done in public places called fulonics. Picture the scene. Simple buildings, tanks lined up in open courtyards, the constant noise of water mixed with the sound of barefoot workers trampling. Their clothes in tanks filled with cured urine. These fulonics were true centers of urban activity. People from all walks of life took their clothes to be cleaned, from the tunics of commoners to the togas of the wealthy. The fulonics were strategically located at points close to markets, hot springs and shopping centers, as they were part of the city's economic gear. The constant movement of customers, employees, and even slaves showed how maintaining cleanliness was a prosperous and necessary business. Within the fulonics, the work was intense and often arduous. The fulones, professionals dedicated to washing and treating fabrics, mastered techniques that included everything from the use of urine to mixtures of clays, ashes, and other natural products that helped to clean, bleach, and even soften the fabrics. It was a combination of empirical knowledge and practices tried over time, a true alchemy of cleanliness. The fulonics, therefore, were not just laundries. They were meeting places, local businesses, and above all, a fundamental part of Rome's urban dynamics. Imagine you've just walked through the busy streets of Rome, watching fulones working non-stop while fermented urine gushed into the tanks. Now tell me, have you ever thought that even for washing clothes there was a whole economy behind it? If this story caught your attention and made you travel back in time, then this video deserves your like and your subscription to the channel. Because here, every detail makes a difference, and your support is the fuel that makes us keep bringing you content that piques your curiosity. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Click on the thumbs up, sign up, and activate the bell so you don't miss any surprising story like this. Let's find out together what else the history of Rome and the world still has to teach us. Within the fulonics, the washing process was practically a multi-step ritual. Picture the scene. workers with firm heels and clothes rolled up, prepared for hours of heavy labor. It all began with the immersion of the clothes in large tanks filled with cured urine. The smell was strong, but for them, that was the smell of sustenance. The key was to stomp the pieces vigorously, using the strength of the legs to allow the urine to penetrate deep into the fibers of the fabric. This repetitive, almost hypnotic act helped dissolve the stubborn grease and dirt, functioning like a manual washing machine, only much more rudimentary. But the work did not stop there. After the initial trampling, the clothes were subjected to other substances, special clays, ashes, and even mixtures of stone dust, which helped to lighten the fabrics and remove stubborn stains. Each stage had its purpose. Each ingredient had a specific role. It was an empirical science dominated by the fulonics, which passed from generation to generation. And don't think that this was a simple job. It took knowledge and skill to dose the time, the amount of urine, the force of the trampling, and even the choice of the right clay for the type of fabric. At the end of these steps, the clothes were ready for rinsing, one of the most important moments of the process. Parts were carefully removed from the tanks and twisted by hand, or, in some larger fulonics, placed in manual presses similar to large tourniquets. This press helped remove excess liquid and facilitated the next step, rinsing in clean water. And even after all this, if stains remained, the process could be repeated until the clothes were spotless. After all the soaking, trampling, and use of cleaning agents, such as clay and ashes, came the fundamental stage of rinsing. The fulons removed the clothes from the tanks and read them out with their hands or with the help of the presses, squeezing. Every last drop of urine impregnated with dirt and grease. This work required physical strength and often calloused hands from the arduous routine. Then the clothes were transferred to large basins or tanks of clean water, often supplied with water from Roman aqueducts, famous for bringing fresh water to cities. The goal was to completely remove the residues of urine, clay, and ash, leaving the fabric as clean as possible. But a single rinse was not always enough. Depending on the degree of dirt or the type of fabric, the process could be repeated several times, always with the concern of not damaging the pieces. After rinsing, the clothes were wrung out again to remove excess water before being taken to dry. Drying also had its secrets. It wasn't just about hanging clothes in the sun. The fulonics used to spread the pieces on large clotheslines in the open air, often in specific locations within the fulonics. White clothes, for example, received special attention. They were spread on wicker supports and exposed to red-hot sulfur vapors, which helped to lighten the fabric and eliminate stains. The colored clothes, on the other hand, underwent another treatment. They were rubbed with a natural soil called crete, which helped to fix the color and remove stubborn dirt. When the clothes were finally clean and dry, the work of the fulonics was not yet finished. Each piece needed finishing and care so that the customer was satisfied. The clothes were brushed to remove lint and dirt residues that might have resisted the washing process. This was done with natural bristle brushes or even with your hands, always gently so as not to damage the fabric. The fulonics knew each type of fabric and knew exactly the right pressure to apply so as not to ruin the material. In addition to brushing, white clothes could be given a special treatment to make them even whiter, involving the use of sulfur vapors, a method we've already mentioned, but which was worth every penny invested. Meanwhile, the colored garments were carefully evaluated to see if the color remained vivid and uniform. Otherwise, the dyeing process could be applied again. In fact, the fulonics offered additional services such as dyeing, recovery of damaged pieces, and even fabric softening. After being cleaned, dried, and brushed, each piece received a simple label with the customer's name. This detail, which may seem banal to us today, was essential to maintain the organization in places where hundreds of clothes passed through the hands of dozens of workers. Imagine the chaos if everyone simply picked up any clothes when it was time to pick them up. The label was the guarantee that each customer would receive their clothes back, clean and ready for use. In addition to washing and additional services, the fulonics were a reflection of the social and economic relations of ancient Rome. The work carried out in these places involved not only free workers, but also slaves who played key roles in the operation of the laundries. These slaves, often purchased in local markets or conquered in wars, were responsible for a significant part of the production, including collecting urine in the public urinals, transporting the heavy pots, and performing the heavier tasks. The owner of the fulonic, in turn, managed the team, oversaw the process, and handled administration and contact with customers. The scene inside a fulonic was busy and full of voices. Free workers and slaves shared the space, each with their own specific tasks, often repeated to exhaustion. The large laundries could employ dozens of people, while the smaller neighborhood laundries had few workers. But the dynamics were the same. The urine stored, the tanks lined up, the strong smell, the calloused hands, and the water being carried in clay buckets. And all this to meet the demand of a city that, to keep its clothes clean, depended on this curious process. In Stefano's famous fulonics in Pompeii, this reality was evident. Originally a residence, the place was adapted to function as a laundry, with tanks distributed throughout the courtyard and specific areas for each stage of the process. There, Stefano, the owner, expertly coordinated his business, taking advantage of the space of the old house to create one of the busiest laundries in the city. He was a man of vision who knew how to transform the need for cleanliness into an opportunity for profit. In Stefano's fulonic, archaeologists found washing tanks made of masonry, perfectly aligned, some still with wear marks left by the workers' sandals. These details tell silent stories of men and women who, with physical effort and practical wisdom, kept the city's clothes in perfect condition. Near the entrance of the fulonic, an inscription with Stefano's name was also discovered, attesting to his importance and making it clear that he was the owner of the place. The interior walls of the laundry room revealed traces of decorative frescoes, an attempt to add a touch of beauty to a place where, despite the strong smell of urine, life happened with intensity. Stefano's fate is intertwined with the tragedy of Pompeii. During the eruption of the volcano Vesuvius in 79 AD, the fulonic was swallowed by ash, preserving not only the physical structures, but also a frozen portrait of Roman routine. Human remains were found there, probably of Stefano or a worker, near the entrance door, suggesting that they tried to flee, but could not escape. These archaeological remains are more than simple ruins. They are silent testimonies of people who lived and worked in the midst of a daily life so different from ours. The discovery of the fulonic helped to understand not only how the laundry system worked in Rome, but also how these places became key players in the urban economy. The urine, collected in strategically distributed public containers, was acquired by merchants who then resold it to the fulonics, generating an economic chain that involved collecting, transporting, and selling, a liquid that for the Romans was as useful as it was profitable. The economic importance of the fulonics was not limited to the simple laundry service. These establishments were linked to a web of commercial activities that included the collection of urine in public places. To understand the value of this peculiar liquid, it is necessary to remember that Rome was a pulsating city where thousands of people circulated daily. The Romans built public urinals at strategic points, true collective containers where anyone could urinate, and thus involuntarily contribute to the supply of laundries. Realizing the economic potential of this practice, Emperor Vespasian, always attentive to collection opportunities, instituted a special tax on the collection and trade of urine. Known as vectigal urine, this tribute was paid by merchants and owners of fulonics who bought the urine collected in public urinals. It was one more way to ensure that the state profited from every commercial activity, even the most unusual. From this situation arose the famous phrase attributed to Vespasian, pecunia non olet, which in Latin means money has no smell. It is said that, when questioned by his son Titus about the morality of making money with something so repulsive, Vespasian would have replied that the money once collected does not carry the odor of its origin. This maxim has spanned centuries and continues to be cited to this day as a symbol of the neutrality of money. It doesn't matter where it comes from, as long as it reaches the public coffers. This tax not only filled the coffers of the empire, but also consolidated the fulonics as an integral part of the urban economy. The urine trade, as strange as it may seem today, involved a whole logistics, from urine collectors to vendors, passing through the transporters who carried the liquid in heavy amphorae to the fulonic ones. It was a cog that moved money, created jobs, and met the needs of a society that valued cleanliness, even if it resorted to unconventional methods to do so. But beyond money, the fulonics were spaces where lives intersected. There were newly arrived slaves, free workers in search of sustenance, and even curious customers who watched from a distance how their clothes gained new life. It was not just a laundry, it was a place of coexistence, learning, and opportunities. The fulonics also played an important social role, providing work for many who had no other way to subsist. The coexistence between different social strata and the constant presence of people in the urinals, in the streets and in the fulonic were part of the urban fabric of Rome. And so, amid the strong smell of urine, the hustle and bustle of the streets and the coming and going of customers, the fulonics became symbols of a time when even the most unexpected liquids were transformed into money and opportunity. This portrait reveals not only a historical curiosity, but also a lesson about how societies can, with creativity, transform what seemed useless into something of value. It is amazing how something as unexpected as urine could move an entire city. In the midst of the markets, baths and forums, the fulonics fulfilled a vital role for urban life, to keep clothes clean, white and presentable for citizens of all classes. For many Romans, appearance was key, as clothing was a status symbol, and being well-dressed meant respect and reputation. And even if the process was, in our eyes, repulsive, for them it was just another example of practicality and ingenuity. In the end, the fulonics reveal much more to us than washing techniques. They tell us about a society that wasted nothing, that took advantage of even what seemed to have no value. A society that knew how to transform problems into solutions, that saw opportunities where others saw only leftovers. Perhaps this is the greatest lesson we can take from this story. Human creativity has no limits, and even urine, something that we throw away today without thinking twice, was considered a precious commodity in ancient Rome. And now, after diving into this curious and surprising story, I ask you, could you work on a Roman fulonic? Tell us in the comments what you think of this unusual practice, and if you would have the courage to face this challenge. And of course, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories like this, because in the end, everything has value, even what smells bad. In the end, the Roman fulonics remind us that even the most curious aspects of history, such as the practice of washing clothes with urine, are powerful windows to understand how humanity has always sought solutions to everyday challenges. They reveal the ingenuity of a people who transformed even what smelled bad into opportunity. And they teach us that many times what we despise can become the basis of an empire. After all, everything has value when we know where to look. If this story surprised you as much as it surprised me to write it, then leave your like as a way to repay all the work we have dedicated to bringing this curiosity to you. And if you believe that knowing the past transforms the way we see the present, subscribe now to the channel, because together we can turn each video into an unforgettable journey through history.